Oh, damn. All right. Now you can't even see me, can you? Can you see me?
Man, I can see you. I can see you.
Okay. So I'm in the wrong one. All right. So.
Fuck yeah. Yeah. The good thing is that now the chat's up to speed, so that's good. So there's like less of a delay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't do anything better. All right. So.
Let's fucking do this.
All right. People can hear me now, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Good. So, my name's Jesse, and I'm just gonna give you a little bit of my background, but I want you to take it not as a credential, because I hate it when people use their background or their credentials as an arguing point. I absolutely hate that. So I don't want you to take it that way. Just accept it as my background so you have a better understanding of where I'm coming from with my knowledge base, okay? So professionally, I've served 12 years with the U.S. Marshal Service as a contractor for them in their prisoner services division, essentially managing their entire inmate medical program across the U.S. U.S. territory, so Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, and all that fun stuff. I did that for 12 years, and I've recently come to the state of California in that government capacity to just basically expand my career a little bit more. I am currently working with the California Department of Justice. I am in the hate crimes unit specifically. That's why you see a lot of my posts about hate crimes, because I see all the data. So I see all the statistical information on it. So there is background and history to that. I get it. My formal education is in criminal justice. My master's that I'm currently pursuing right now is in emergency management and homeland security. So that's adding to that repertoire, if you will. On the side, I do firearm stuff. As you guys know, I've been managing the Sacramento Gun Club for maybe 5 years now, or at least being part of it. And I'm just now in a position where I have very fine control on the items that we bring in, because it's stuff that I want to buy. So stuff, right? So my background basically comes from practical application of firearms as well as equipment and actual use of it, right? So if you're not going to use the equipment as intended, then there's no point in ponying up the extra money for those pieces of equipment. Now, as far as AR-15s go, it's the same thing. So a lot of my considerations as far as what equipment to buy, what firearms to buy, is based on a practical manner for the individual. It's not so easy as coming to the shop and saying, hey, I want an AR-15, what do I buy? It's not that simple. There's a lot that goes into it, especially when you're building one or you're assembling one yourself. There's a lot of technical aspects to an AR-15 as far as how it was designed and how it was intended to be used. Now, that's not to state that you can't just slap parts together and it'll work, and that's true. AR-15s are forgiving enough that you can technically do that and it'll be fine, but it's the same thing as driving around a car that has nuts and bolts are not to spec and there's stuff that's rattling around. Or back in my rice rocket days, high school and early college, we would buy parts from eBay thinking it's hot shit, but parts don't fit.
Were you driving Integra? What'd you drive?
My first car was an Integra. It was like a 91 Integra, and then after that I went to all Toyota MR2s. I've had 3 SW20 MR2s. 2 of them were turbo. One of them was naturally aspirated. So it's all that fun stuff. But I had to grow up, and I have a boring SUV for more practical use, like taking it outside and stuff like that.
That's tight. That's dope.
Let's see here. What else do I want to actually have a little list here?
I mean, you touched on a lot of good stuff, Jesse. Well, for one, I know everyone. I mean, I'm getting messages in my messenger right now. They're all saying, "What? I didn't know that." So thanks for your service. I mean, 12 years is a long time, and that's I mean, it's not, it ain't no like Fremont Police or whatever. It's the U.S. freaking Marshals. So that's dope.
Right, but
They made movies on you. You know what I mean?
that I wasn't a deputy U.S. Marshal. I was a
Ah.
contracted capacity, so I wasn't even a GS rank formally. Because
Okay.
the way that the federal government works, especially for you folks that are intending to go into the federal side, is that there are very few full-time paid positions that are GS ranks. So when you achieve your GS rank, that's basically your pay scale, if you will. And there are a lot more contractors than there are actual government employees because of tenure and pension and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's very hard, very, very difficult to get in the federal system, but contracting was one of the ways. But, you know, I wanted a pension, so that's why I swapped over to California. And my some of our members here that I have spoken to personally, they who are in the actual field itself, who are line level officers, they understand, you know, see some of their departments, paperwork and all that stuff too. But, you know, but that's just information just to kind of give you background on that. As far as personally, I grew up in Sacramento. I am technically, I guess, second generation. Firstborn here. My parents were refugees from the Cold War era. They were so the Vietnam War, essentially. They came over as refugees. They were in Laos when the whole thing started, and they were given refugee status to come over. So, you know, like a lot of you, I'm sure that y'all can relate that we kind of had to figure out our own way in America, right? Because we didn't have the guidance that the third, fourth generation Asian Americans that have been here for a long time that they have. But, you know, I barely learned about retirement and savings until I was like maybe 26. You know, so things to consider, especially for a younger generation, and that's kind of what segued me to start my social media accounts, and then the project that I'll be talking about later. It sort of influenced that. So my videos. Let me actually try to move. Is this better? I don't know, but my videos are mainly going to be about. Is that right?
Yeah.
This way. All right, let me move it this way. There you go. My videos are mainly more about the things that I've learned while trying to come up in the firearms world. So, so I started my firearms career a little bit before, but I went through a California Police Academy in 2014. I finished, graduated, came out, and then, you know, started down the line of going into the line level a little bit, determined that I would probably make more of a difference in the administrative side. Hence, I stayed with the Marshal Service for longer, and then now I'm on the admin side for DOJ. So because of that, I learned a lot about firearms from older instructors, but a lot of the information was antiquated, right? So I quickly learned from government bureaucracy that a lot of it is regurgitated information, but not evidence-based moving forward. So a lot of my instruction now is based on that when I teach people when they come and ask for advice on what to buy, or even handguns, rifles. So if y'all have actually watched any of my videos, then you'll see that I go through that first-person view for a reason, just to get a little bit more technicality out of it, to help you fine-tune the firearm for yourself. Because you're going to be different, I'm going to be different, physical limitations. That's our job as instructors. That's what we're supposed to do. We're not just supposed to be just throwing in general Glock 19 at everybody. That's not the way it works, right? And frankly, I and the folks who have come in and thought they wanted a Glock 19, I know some of you here because I can see you, is that you think you want a Glock 19 until we go through the analysis and it turns out that the Glock 17 fits you better. So, frankly, the Gen 3s, the 19 is a lot fatter than the 17 is, and for a lot of us, our ergonomics, the 17 curvature is a little bit better, and plus, but you know, besides that. So, my general rule of thumb for handguns is you should always get the largest firearm you can comfortably wield, and then go from there, right? So, a lot of folks make the mistake of starting with CCW guns first, so that's not the correct path to make. They tend to get jaded by the recoil impulse for CCW guns. They're just different animals, but
that is, dude, you like nailed it on the head. That was my path. I was a FUD. I was like, I'm gonna get me a 1911, and I got myself a 1911, and I competed with it. And I was like, damn, this is kind of hard to really master. And then I went to the Glock 17, and with a little stippling job on it, with the trigger undercut, and then just put some rounds through it. Not a few, a lot of rounds through it. It became my main pistol. And I love my Glock 17. And I have held the Glock 19, and I understand what you mean. It is a little fatter, and it didn't feel comfortable in my hand. So I can attest to that. But to move on to like why we're doing this MMA. So I know we've been going back and forth about the AR system, quality control and such. But I think how I'm going to break this down is we're going to go in tiers of someone who just is getting started getting a rifle, and then we can go into like the really, really nitty gritty underground stuff. So I guess the first question is if someone was to go to you and say, hey Jesse, I am a father of two, and I have a revolver and I shoot maybe once a year. I think it's time to invest in an AR. I have done research that something around 14.5, 16-inch is like the way to go. What do you suggest for me from top to bottom, and then how do I go about it? Yeah.
So, I mean, the general question, the initial questions I have are, what are you going to do with the rifle? Like, what is the intent? And then, and realistically, in my the part one of my AR video, or for low receivers I released last week, and the follow-up's coming this week, is that essentially literally go on the internet, find a picture of an AR-15 that you want yours to look at, and then use that as the schematic. So what I mean by that is a lot of people, I'm talking about a lot of people, come in and buy the cheapest AR they can find, and their mentality is, well, I'll just upgrade later. Like, no, and you just wasted a lot more money than you need to, and you bought shitty equipment that you're never going to use. Like the Smith & Wesson MP15 that's available for California right now is not even California specific. It's 50 state compliant, so it's Massachusetts and New York compliant, meaning there's a threaded muzzle on there. So you have this long freedom, like worse than PSA's freedom profile, full long profile barrel, no threads, and there's something new about it. And the way that Smith & Wesson executed their fixed stock is they blind roll pinned it into the buffer tube. So the only way you can change that out is essentially you cut it out, or you undo your entire buffer system to change it. Frankly, the amount of money and the time that you're going to spend doing that, you're just better off buying either complete lower and buying the complete upper you want and putting it together, instead of spending, what is the going price for those, like $800 now?
It's 800 now.
That's ridiculous. No, don't do that. So
that's 2 Glocks. No, I'm just kidding.
exactly. So the reason why I tell folks to do that is because they tend to get fixed front sights. I don't know if you can see that, but fixed front sights like this, and then they want to throw on like a high power optic or an LPVO on there, a low power variable optic, like a 1.4, 1.6, and it's like, well, now your front sight base is in the way. Now it interferes with your sight picture. It can, maybe not at higher magnifications, but it certainly can. But generally, when you build out and you spec out that way, you want to go with a low profile gas block so you can have an unobstructed view as you're going through. Now, there are benefits to this, to an FSB or front sight base like this, but that's a different category depending on what you're intending to do with the rifle. So, like something like this, where you have an LPVO, it's flat top all the way through, right? So you have to find a guide somewhere other than coming in to ask for everything to be handed for you. And I hate that, right? It simply is, find a picture of the AR-15 you want it to look at, then bring it in, show me, and then we'll build from there. We'll start giving you options on what features to go about, and then what systems to use, like buffer systems, what trigger systems, bolt carrier group, all that matters, right? And from a technical perspective, even though you're buying either low-end, mid-tier, or even high-end parts, even though they come from a reputable manufacturer, tolerance stacking still happens. I mean, sometimes parts just don't play well together, and you just either have to swap parts or go to a different method, depending on what you're doing. And all that matters. But, the first things first is, if we're just going to assume that everyone's going to start off building,
Yeah.
That seems to be the easiest way. In fact, you save more money that way because there's a federal tax that's like 15% on a complete firearm versus different parts. So it's usually recommended you do that. If you don't want to build, then like I mentioned before, buy a complete lower, buy a complete upper, and put it together. Right? That's like, I mean, hopefully you know how to do that. It's just put the together.
Yeah. So on that note, you know, I do see a spike in the interest of building ARs for sure. So maybe we can go off of that right now, right? Because I don't really see too many people buying complete ARs, and if they do, they probably don't matter. I'm gonna be real. They probably just get it, and they probably will sell it maybe within the next 5 months or whatever. But to the people who build their ARs, these are people who are investing in their life and the protection of their family and their right to practice their 2A right. So on the topic of building ARs, so I know the biggest question is the type of barrel that people should get, right? So there's 5.56 NATO barrel, and then there's also the 223 Wild barrel, 1/7 twist or 1/8 twist, 14.5 length or 18 inches, or sorry, 16 inches long. So what do you suggest, or how do you suggest people go about that in terms of budget and like functionality?
If you are,
we'll start with the caliber. Yeah.
Well, the 223 Wild chambering was created to be a more precision-based chambering. It's closer to a 223 chamber and throat than it is a 5.56. But you can technically use both. It just might, depending on tolerance stacking. Again, it might stick on 5.56 cartridges, and that can happen, especially if you're shooting milsurp or a lot of like dirty wolf ammo.
Yeah,
it's just things to consider. So you have to think about the ammunition that you intend to use out of it, and then the barrel length. As far as barrel length, we know that the legal limit in California and in the federal side is 16 inches, right? Either whatever length barrel pinned to 16 or a flat 16 plus whatever open muzzle device you want. And for folks that are starting out, I usually just recommend a 16 unless they know for sure what they want and they understand what they're doing. Just simply because the 14.5, like my preference is always 14.5.
Yeah.
But the new trend for 13.7, like the gun industry is kind of like the hype beast for the shoes and car stuff. And we have those in the gun industry, the Gucci gangs and Gucci Glock, and that's fine. You want to do that, all good, but just as long as they admit to it, they understand that they admit to it and be intellectually honest about it. Like, hey, I'm just doing this for the gram. That's fine. That's fine, man. You do you, but don't tout like you have built the best shit in the world. So it's 13.7s were intended to be the shortest legal rifle configuration you can get with a suppressor. That is the purpose of a 13.7. So when you mount a suppressor without needing to go for an SPR tax stamp outside of California, obviously, but that's the reason why you go for a 13.7. The reason why it was developed was specifically for that. And I will tell actually everyone here that certain particular certain particular barrels in 13.7 are specifically tuned for suppressor use. So meaning, if you bought the barrel, you installed it without knowing, then your gun's not going to cycle, even with high-powered ammo, or probably not with high-powered ammo. It's just because of that. The Ballistic Advantage's 13.7 carbine barrel is one particular example of that. And the downside of Ballistic Advantage is they've gone so corporate now that they hide information. They don't share their port sizing, their gas port sizing with the public. Sons of Liberty Gunworks does it, right? And they're very open about that. And their 13.7 carbine, as well as the mid-length, is good. The Ballistic Advantage 13.7 mid-length is good. But when you're going for mid-length, 14.5 is ideal for mid-length. 13.7 is a little short on the dwell time. And for folks that don't understand what dwell time is, because this is an exposed gas block, this is where my gas block is. This is front sight gas block combo. So the dwell time refers to the amount of the additional barrel length after the front sight base. So think of it as a water hose that's on, and then you prick a hole in it. There's this high pressure stream that's coming out. That's what your gas tube is doing. As long as there's pressure continuously going down and the barrel, the cartridge or the bullet has not left the barrel yet, there's a lot of pressure that's coming back through the tube. But once that bullet leaves the barrel, all that pressure starts to dissipate. So that's what dwell time refers to, right? So it's pressurized gas. So when you have such short dwell time, like let's say for cube, you start to run into reliability issues with some types of ammo, right? Depending on what you're shooting, even weather conditions affect it. Your buffer system for, if you don't understand, buffer system refers to this back section. Your receiver extension is your buffer system. So that all has to be tuned to the ammunition using, to the weather conditions, to the environment that you're going to be in. If you want a generally reliable rifle, then just stick to a 16-inch mid-length with like an H1, H2 buffer and a standard carbine spring, or spring coat blue or white, whichever you want. They're all carbine style springs. And then you should be fine. I wouldn't mess with anything that's kind of obscure, like the Geisley Super 42.
Oh, yeah.
Those things have been known to cause a lot of problems in a lot of people's guns. In fact, I've seen a few examples that have broken that have come to the shop. And simply because the industry insider in that is Geisley has gone very corporate, and they just stopped giving a shit about the consumers. Kind of like what Colt did back in the 80s and 90s with their large pin Colts. They just basically beat everybody over. 6 Hours doing that. I think we've seen a lot of examples of 6 Hours screw-ups lately. They tend to change stuff out on the consumers without telling them. All of a sudden, you don't get support anymore. We've seen that a long time with that. But but the Geisley Super 42 was designed for full auto fire. It was submitted into the military trials to compete when the U.S. Army was looking for new bolt carrier groups or new bolt carrier systems, if you will. And Super 42 was added to that as a package, but that program was canceled. That's when we see the Surefire bolt carrier group combo come out. Their OPF or optimized bolt carrier group or whatever it is. So that's a proprietary system, which I don't like that. That's where we got the venerable LMT, the lobster tail system that came from there. The Knights Armament Sand Cutter all came from that program. So those are fantastic parts, but only when they're tuned properly with the rifle. So, starting out, basic 16-inch barrel. I'm going to say not to use a front side base because a lot of people are going to want magnified optics down the line until they understand what a front side base does. Like for me, I have front side bases because those are very specific role-oriented rifles, right? So going back, find a picture, determine what you're going to use the rifle for. If you're bench shooting the entire time, you can make that rifle as piggy as you want to. You can fine-tune the gas in the buffer system to suit the very specific type of ammo that you'll be shooting. Like if you're just aiming for the tightest groups possible. If you want a defensive rifle, build it as light as you need to with red dots if you want to. Like I usually don't recommend LPVOs for close quarters or for any of those types of up close shooting because you're even as good as like the Vortex Razor is and a lot of the other high-end optics, high-end scopes themselves. You're never going to get a true 1X like a red dot. That's just the way that the technology is right now. And so, start off with a picture, get your receiver, do a 16-inch barrel, and then go from there. Stay away from all the Gucci stuff that comes, all the trends, if you will, and then build it. So the GI spec lowers are pretty standard. This is a Centurion Arms CM4. It's pretty standard, guys. Pretty standard. But Centurion Arms has very high quality control as far as their tolerance and their specifications go. Centurion Arms, Beltor, a few other companies out there. Psionics, fantastic company. A lot of people don't know about them, but they've been doing what Sons of Liberty Gunworks has been doing since the 70s, since the Vietnam era, really. They built just about almost every police department's service rifles, or quite a few of them, frankly, in the area. I know that U.S. Marshal Service Special Operations Group uses theirs, the Psionic rifles, as well as the Staccato, whatever 1911s that they use now. So standard GI lowers, nothing wrong with that. Right? I usually say you get that, build it up from there, change out whatever little parts you want to, figure out your trigger. If you want single stage, two stage, for those of you that don't understand, your pistol trigger that you have on your Glocks, a little bit of take up to the wall. That's what a two stage is. A single stage is kind of more of a rolling break, similar to a Glock 34. And that's not my preference. I like the two-stage triggers personally. But
yeah, same.
when you get a GI spec lower, especially from a reputable company, you understand that for the most part, majority of the parts out there that you're going to acquire is going to work in it because it is the standardization. Once you start getting into the enhanced lowers or the non-standard, that's when you start to run into issues, especially for us in California that have compliance to deal with. So the compliance parts out there don't work with all lowers, like ambidextrous lowers don't work with AR maglocks or juggernauts or anything else of that standard. Don't buy juggernauts. If you guys have them already, change them out. They're absolute garbage.
You know, what's funny? What's funny is I did an AMA with these two new girl gun owners that Mel referred. They're his students, and her boyfriend is a machinist at Juggernaut. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, Eddie knows her.
Yeah. Well, so I'll explain my position on that. So the AR-15 bolt catch is very important. It is vital to the function, the function of an AR-15, as well as the ability to clear malfunctions outside of compliance devices itself. Right? It's vital, and even to have bolt lock is very important as far as understanding that feel, getting that repetition going, so you know what bolt lock feels like, as well as malfunctions. But the Juggernaut Tactical Kit, it replaces your bolt catch, so you don't even have that anymore. So how are you going to clear malfunctions short of popping the guts out of your magazine or taking your upper and lower part? It's not. I understand what they did, and the innovation was there, but the execution is just not as well done as an AR maglock is.
Yeah.
Right? The AR maglocks, instead of replacing your bolt catch, see here, we retain bolt catch. We have they swap the magazine release button off of it instead. And like the Juggernaut kit, they do have a button for you to push to open the action, basically to barely pop it open, if you will. And then at that point, you can drop the mag. Otherwise, you can't. Now, you're supposed to, once your receivers are worn in and once the maglock breaks in with this, you're supposed to be able to release your magazine with the bolt lock back. But it takes tuning. Like I've modified my previous ones down so that I can do it when the action with the bolt is locked back. And so what that translates to is not only magazine changes, very similar to a regular AR-15, but also malfunction clearing if the bolt is not all the way forward, right? Because that's one of the malfunction clearing processes on an AR-15. That's why it's so important that for a compliance device to work for us in California, it needs to retain some of the functionality that an AR-15 was intended to have. Granted, it's still a maglock and you're still limited to 10 rounds. So the alternative options are featureless. Let me backtrack it. So there's a misconception. There's actually three different categories of compliance devices for us in California: featureless, fixed magazine, or magazine lock. Right? Those two, the last two, they kind of get interchanged. But when we talk about those categories, they mean different things. Magazine lock for us essentially is our new bullet button, if you will. That's the one that the AR maglock is. It's a magazine lock versus a fixed magazine, like the Franklin Armory DFM, I think it is, and that you insert to the top, you cannot physically pull it down. Or in this case, the Comp Mag, which is the recommendation for any special class lower, which you can't use a maglock on, or you don't want to change your features as well, because it physically bolts in. You adjust the set screw with the upper off, and then you put a little pin in there if you're going to do that, and it locks in. Then you would basically feed through this ejection port here and go from there. Now, this thing sucks. It works when it wants to work and doesn't really work, but it is purely for compliance. Okay, so take that for what it is. Just understand that it is purely for compliance as a fixed magazine.
Yeah.
But for Irradian and the ADMs or any other special classification lowers, that's the recommendation. The other alternative, which I don't have here, is the featureless system, but there are different ways of executing featureless. The best one that I have found is the Exile Machine. This is from Calguns. They used to be on Calguns quite a bit, but they went out of business and they sold this file to somebody else who now sells on eBay. And I know that some of you guys use it because I've seen it. But what it does is, and this isn't a Magpul Myad, but it's like K2, but it replaces the back strap on a Magpul Myad grip. So this is the back of a Myad. So you essentially, imagine this is a Myad. You slide it off, and you insert this in. And now you have not only a fin, but a ledge here that allows you to have better control over the rifle as you're running around doing things. Now, granted, some people are like, well, this is a weird, funny way to do it. Well, if you ever shoot long distance, you understand that this is actually a better method to hold the gun because you have a little bit of a pull versus wrapping your pistol grip around. Now you're curving your wrist back as you're going. So this is a lot more control, and you'll see that Strike Industries, among a few other companies, have copied this design in their own fashion. But this thumb ledge was originally created by Exile Machine. So this is great because your Magpul Myad is just a pistol grip with the interchangeable back strap. What does that mean? Well, if you go to out of the state or when you're feeling frisky, just simply pop this off, throw your normal back strap back on your functioning AR-15, because the assumption is that you size the telescoping stock to you already and your needs, and then you have a muzzle brake, which is probably going to help you shoot a little bit faster anyways. And at that point, if you're going to get frisky, who cares about your neighbors next to you, right? But
yeah. I like that fin. I have that on my girlfriend's rifle. Yeah, it works well. Works super well. Yeah,
it works really well. Now, understanding that the Surefire Warden is a great alternative, but it has been argued ad nauseum all over the internet that this does not constitute a compliance, or it does not work with featureless guns because of how Surefire advertises it. So even though we understand it creates a gigantic fireball that sends it forward, even on a war comp or a 3-prong, it actually makes flash mitigation useless out of a war comp or a 3-prong flash hider. But we understand that, but the way that Surefire advertises is their verbiage is something like it mitigates flash, right? And that's sufficient. If you guys recall the VG6 Gammas, their original packaging used to say flash mitigation on there, and so there was one point when all the FUDs all over Calgon started getting all butthurt and saying, no, you can't use that. Well, I mean, everybody still used it, so it didn't really matter. So a lot of that. So realistically, I get it. Nobody wants to run afoul of the wall, but at some point you have to make a determination for yourself. You know, at some point you're just going to have to say, fuck it. Look, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything illegal, but you know, I'm saying at some point you're just gonna have to make a decision for yourself.
Yeah. On that point, you know, I'm glad that we're talking about compliances. You explained them really well, but I think the one that's very popular is featureless. And you know, I think a topic that comes up, well, I mean, you already explained it. You know, fin grip, featureless grip, fixed stock. Obviously 16-inch overall, and also not a flash hider muzzle device. Another topic that I've noticed that people are kind of in between, or that's in the gray area, is linear comps. So is there like maybe a better way to explain or identify linear comps if they're legal or not? Because I know the Noveske KX5, I know it says flash suppressor, but some people argue like, oh no, it's a linear comp. I know some people argue the PWS, their comp is also kind of a, you know, in a gray area too. So what are your thoughts on linear comps?
So the general consensus that comps in general are okay. Linear comps, in my opinion, are okay. It's when you start having like comps with 3 prongs in the front, like the war comp or the VG6 Epsilon, I want to say it is basically a gamma with additional prongs in the front. Anything with that vortex symbol or that vortex setup itself. Now, I don't have muzzle brakes here actually because I stopped going featureless because I just whatever. But I mean, in general, a muzzle brake or a comp is going to have a much smaller opening than this. This is a Surefire close time war comp, but it's basically this is very wide and it's designed to let as much gas out as possible. to help mitigate flash. But muzzle brake is the hole is always going to be about the diameter of the cartridge that you're shooting. So that's kind of one of the ways to tell. And then also, of course, be mindful of manufacturer advertising on their packaging. Sometimes that's their advertising is what causes the speculation or the gray area. Of course, DOJ has never ruled on anything like that, but people get paranoid, and that's what a lot of the FUDs on cow guns have been talking about. Now, speaking of cow guns, I've been a long-time member there, and actually, I won't necessarily reveal my screen name here, but I've contributed quite a bit to the community there. Cool. There's a lot of my information that's still floating around and still being used, especially with the whole Real ID Act when it first came out. The California Pistol and Rifle Association incorrectly told Californians that the federal limits of apply driver's license was okay, but I knew it wasn't because the verbiage matched identically to the AB60 driver's license or the illegal immigrant driver's license.
Yeah.
And because the CRPA relied on the ATF to give them an answer to tell them it's okay, but we don't answer to the ATF necessarily here. We have to abide by California laws too. So they incorrectly did that, and I was one of the first FFLs in the community in California on cow guns, as well as to reach out to CRPA and tell them that you guys are wrong. You're giving out misinformation. You have all these people coming into the shop now telling us that they want to buy a gun. We tell them they can't because of that driver's license. But their response to us, well, CRPA told us to. Just typical FUD shit that goes on. So people that rely on being spoon-fed instead of verifying the information themselves. So if you watch any of my videos, you'll know that towards the end, I always try my best to take everything that I tell you as well as what other people tell you with a grain of salt, verify for yourself because it's up to you, right? My goal is to make self-sufficient and self-sustainable people so you can be better people in general for yourself and for your family and for whoever else. So that's my goal with the channels. It's to kind of give you a primer, but so y'all can be self-sufficient in what you're doing. Now, another compliance that we can talk about, rimfire.
Oh, yeah.
California specifically exempts rimfire from assault weapons laws short of short barrel rifles, right? Short of SBRs. That's a whole different category of laws. And so, but the assault weapons laws, rimfire is specifically exempt. So you can use, in this case, 25 round magazines. You can have your mag drops and all that fun stuff. This is a Smith & Wesson M&P 1522. And what I've done to it is I modified it to mimic my full-size guns, including adding weight back here and adding more weight up here, so that it serves as a better training rifle for me because ammo's pretty scarce right now. But it also serves as a tester for this. This is the Primary Arms ACSS 1-6 for 22 specifically. I get a lot of testers from them to check products out to see if we want to bring them in, and as well as from the rest of the industry. So, if you guys have questions on a particular product, I might have tested it before, and I'll gladly let you know. So basically, this is a standard LPVL setup. So, American Defense mount. This is an old Surefire. I think this is a AA version, so it's maybe like 200 lumens. Yeah, that's like only 200 lumens.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. So rimfire. You can take your existing AR-15. Granted, 22's twist rate should be like 1 in 12 or something to basically fully stabilize the round. But it's not to say you can't hit with a 1 in 7, 1 in 9, 1 in 8 twist barrel on an AR-15, but just don't expect to be bullseye, like precision accurate with it. But you can certainly get like the CMMG 22 bolt conversion and run that, and that will render your AR-15 compliant for the purposes of California.
Nice.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Sorry, it's COVID, man.
The vid. That's cool. Thank you for sharing that. I know my partner's dad, he has a rimfire AR. It's fun. It's a fun little thing. And that's actually good to know because just in case if I need to change, systems for a rainy day. You touched on a lot of good stuff, Jesse, and I'm really happy that we're talking about this because, I think most people forget, going back to what we talked about earlier is like why even get an AR, and what's the purpose of it? And you kind of you touched on a lot. You touched on what's the length, what kind of optic do you run, and I think and I also want to talk about like certain features too. So we both agree. I mean, at least I agree with you. If you're getting something for home defense, it shouldn't be an LPVO. It should be a red dot. On top of the red dot, so I know you have that flashlight on your AR. Do you suggest any other certain features, such as like a flashlight? And if you do, like, what are the rule of thumbs to having that device on your rifle?
So accoutrements or accessories that go on your rifle should be based on the situation that you're going to use them in.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily going to run a flashlight on a gun that is a DMR, right, or long distance rifle. For a home defense weapon or anything that's a practical use weapon or even training weapon, if you intend to shoot at night, should have a flashlight on it. Let's see here. So it doesn't really matter so much on the flashlights, just as long as you get it from a reputable manufacturer. I do not recommend Olight. Man, like, please don't. All the examples that have come out from Olight, including like the two deaths, I believe they have. Olight has 2 body counts on them. So think about that concept, right? So this is a Streamlight HLX. It's an inexpensive, maybe $130 maybe.
Wow.
For their setup, it's 1,000 lumens. I'm not sure about the Candela, but it's 10 tap programmable, so you can go high, low, strobe. I just deactivate and just go high. Their switch is not as good as the Surefire switch. You can run an adapter, but at that point you're just spending too much money. This is a they kind of give you a crappy rail mounting kit on it.
Yeah.
This is a full defensive rail mount here. I think they sent this to me for testing. And so far I like it, but frankly I think the Surefire or the Mod Light systems are superior.
Yeah, I like the Surefire system. Yeah.
On this rifle, I'm running an EOTech XPS. Is it EXPS2 dash 2? So it has 2 dots with the magnifier. And simply because this was one of the first setups, and the reason why I haven't run a riser. So this is set at lower 1/3. So getting back to the sight pictures, what absolute co-witness, lower 1/3, and taller mounts refers to is absolute co-witness is when you're looking through your iron sights, your rear sight and your front sight, and you're lining up your sights, your absolute co-witness within that window is completely matched with your iron sights. Lower 1/3 means it sits a little bit lower and you have to duck down from your cheek weld in order to see your iron sights, but otherwise you just kind of lift up a little bit and you'll see your red dot above it. Yeah. I prefer lower 1/3 for this style optic, especially because I'm using a front sight base, that if I go any higher than this, then I lose my sights. I lose my iron sights, which defeats the purpose of having a front sight base here. Now, understanding that, this is a Unity Tactical riser. They're at approximately 2.26 inches in height, and there is a built-in rear sight in here for me to align with my front sight should this optic go down. Of course, I have to take off my magnifier in this case to see it, but there is a rear sight built in for you to line up with your front sight. And I do have a fixed front sight. Technically, it's fixed non-folding, but it's not like the gas block over there. This I can actually remove and I can adjust as needed.
That's the Scalar Works, right?
No, this one is a Unity Tactical.
Oh, the front sight? The front sight.
Right. So instead, oh yeah, correct. The front side is Scalar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, nice.
So instead of a flip to the side, flip to the side magnifier here. The Unity Tactical one specifically flips up and down. So it gets out of the way, there's a lot less snag hardness. But if you see the way the industry is running right now, they don't want snag on the side, but now they're adding side mount LPV, side mount red dot. So now we're going back to the whole thing, right? So the community cycling back and, going back to what I mentioned before, just don't bother going with the trend, like look at the stuff and understand what it is to see for future consideration. If you think it's beneficial to you, then give it a go. But it's like going backwards from what the plan of some of these other manufacturers are going towards, And other things to consider for more fixed sights is carry handles. If you're into that game with the front sight base, then if you like iron sights and you want to mount something like this, so for those of you who've been around long enough to know A1, A2 upper receivers with red dots on top, this is 2.26 inch of a height. So carry handle height is basically what the Unity mounts were replicating, essentially. And
that's a cool fact. That's cool.
Different reasons why you would do this. You have a giraffe neck, or you just don't like to hunch up and do a cheek weld. You just prefer more neutral heads up, like a neck position here. So you're a lot more, your situational awareness is much higher. So think about when you're shooting a pistol and you are turtling, ducking your head down, you lose all this peripheral vision here. Everything above you because you're ducking now. But if your head is up, you can see a lot more. It's a lot more neutral for you to move around. So that's a benefit of the higher mounts. On top of, in the event that you run night vision, you have lasers mounted up front that the lasers aren't including your vision or your optic plane, if you will.
Jay says, what if he has no neck? Stupid.
Like the battle gnomes?
Yeah.
They're just going to have to mount shoulder weapons and then just go from there.
Mel asks, do you plan to have a used or pre-tested gear sale? Asking for everyone.
Mel asked that?
Mel, he's one of the moderators.
You know, I do actually regularly sell off a lot of my gear, actually, quite a bit, because I go through so much testing that I find what works for me. I keep the ones that work, and the one that I don't have a use for, I usually sell off, yeah. So a lot of the products are sent to me for testing. They're mine to keep for the most part, and I just don't use them. So once I'm done with them, then that's it. The company don't ask for them back. So I just either give them out to somebody else to test right now or sell them. So either way it works here. So I mean, if you guys want something to ask, I know that actually some of y'all have actually bought stuff from me before. Jay, I'm probably talking to you. Always buying stuff from me. So this one is the Scalar Works. This is a 1.93 height, so it's a little bit shorter than the Unity, but it's still taller than the 152, 157 of the 1/3. Granted, you cannot see your iron sights on here. These are just here as a placeholder right now. They don't really do much. But here is a Surefire. That's a mini scout.
Nice.
In this case here, if you want to see that light outfit. This is okay. This is an older mini scout using battery. But for those of you that want to see an actual mod light, let's see here.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that's like.
That's the PLH specifically. I have an OKW, and I've tested them both. Frankly, the PLH seems to be the better optic overall. The OKW for like a DMR type, when you're really trying to reach out there at night, that's probably ideal for you. But most of us are probably not going to be shooting DMRs at night, so I'd probably say a PLH is a better general purpose light.
Yeah, most of us aren't in a zombie apocalypse or an operator, so so that's good. Yeah, so the PLH, right? PLH.
Yeah, the PLH U2 specifically is. So the beam patterns on the OKW is much tighter. You can physically see it when you're down at distance, and you lose so much peripheral out of it versus the PLH. Granted, you lose distance with PLH, but it's kind of a trade-off at that point. You know. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to ask it earlier, but we were getting into it. The Scalar works with the aim point. So I'm actually running that optic on my 13.7, and I'm really happy with it. The dot is really crisp. But I've also hear mixed things too. You know, there's a side of like, you know, the red dot technology is so good that it'll like survive a house fire, which Aimpoint did. And then you know, these operators or people who work in the industry, I mean, I'm honestly just pulling names and people who I've known and heard say this. They say that the, you know, red dots like Aimpoint and MROs are so good that you don't need to run backup iron sights. And then there's the other side that says, no, man, you never know. You should always run backup iron sights. But I want to hear your take on that. Like, what do you feel about that?
That depends on you. What you feel comfortable with. If you have space, like the shorties that we have, kind of running out of space here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can't see my irons because of this optic anyway, so eventually I'm going to take these irons off. But if
Mm.
you're running night vision, you're running a laser, some of those are gigantic up here. You start
Yeah.
running out of space on where your switches can go. That's why the mod light switches or even the A&A Tactical ones are getting smaller and smaller
Mhm.
because they're trying to make up for the loss of space from running accoutrements up front. Right? The other thing you have to consider is front weight bias also. So you
Yeah.
remember like piston guns, piston AR-15s, they tend to be front heavy and people are complaining about that. Then they add like 30 items on the front of their rifle, and they still say the piston is too heavy, right? So folks have been running HK416s are pistons for a number of years, for actually still now forever. And
Yeah.
you know they've been rolling. One thing to consider that I should note is the aim point optics sit a little bit lower compared to the Holosuns. This is a Holosun 403.
Mhm.
So the Holosuns are built and they sit a smidge taller. So even though this is a 193 mount, it probably sits closer to 2.
Oh, okay.
So just something to consider when you're running magnifiers behind it. So if you got this and you had the scale works flipped to the side magnifier, it may not line up because the Holosun sits a little bit higher. So a little bit additional information for y'all there. Since we're already holding this one, AR pistols.
Oh, yeah.
California, AR pistols are a whole different category of assault weapon because they don't fall under the rifle category. They fall under the pistol category for assault weapons. Totally different laws. So you can't think of it as a rifle. For the basics of this, I mean, the general concept for pistols, for assault weapon pistols is can't be 50 BMG, you can't have a threaded muzzle, you can't have magazines that insert outside the pistol grip. Of course, like a number of other things too, like braces, obviously, are okay. But you have to have a compliance device. There is no such thing as a featureless pistol. Featureless only applies to long guns, so you can't put a fin on your AR pistol and think it's okay. Sorry, I have like allergies for them. Okay.
That's it.
You can still have a folding stock on a pistol, but you cannot put it on a rifle in the state of California without a mag lock and without like a 21-inch barrel. So understanding that federal law has a 26-inch overall length requirement for long guns with a 16-inch barrel. But in California, it's 16-inch barrel plus a 30-inch overall. So meaning you can't do the same things. Like a rimfire is still 26 inches. Shotguns are still 26 inches, but for semi-automatic centerfire rifles, it's 30 inches overall. So the folding stock, what happens is when you fold, now it's shorter, but it's still able to fire in this configuration. Let's assume this is a rifle instead of a pistol. Now, because of the fact that it's still able to fire, you need to be able to make this from the butt end all the way to the muzzle 30 inches overall. So meaning it's a 21-inch barrel. And you still have the mag lock because there's no featureless now that your stock folds.
Oh, my goodness.
For compliance. This particularly is a 9mm. This is using the CMMG radio delay blowback kit. And it is a unique system that mimics the MP5 recoil impulse. So unlike a traditional AR9 with a gigantic high mass bolt carrier group and like almost rifle, actually it is heavier. The 9mm buffer is heavier than a rifle length buffer, so consider that.
Interesting.
You need all that weight to basically control the blowback because there's nothing to delay it and blowing up in your face, if you will. So you need that weight to do it. The CMMG kit has a star pattern and actually mimics an AR-15. It just happens to shoot 9mm. And the analogy that I have to give to people is an AR-9 is basically a standard AR-9 is a ground up built design that's designed to look like an AR-15. When the CMMG kit is specifically an AR-15 that shoots 9mm. Hopefully that helps you to understand that concept there. Okay. So everything here is AR-15 except for the bolt carrier group, the barrel, and that's it. That's it. That's the only two things you change. Even the magazines are AR-15 in this case here. You can probably use their own their lowers, or I'm not sure if they're compatible with other like Glock lowers or not, but I know CMMG has their own. So what it is they take mean arms as magazines and they are their inserts and they modify them slightly to make it fit specifically for this design. Now, unlike the mean arms actually has your ejector as part of the follower. So when you take out your magazine, your gun no longer ejects, or you can't take out a casing. So that is a safety hazard, because when you try to clear a gun, on this gun, because the extractor is part of the bolt here, because this one actually does have a bolt, it will pull the cartridge out. But on a standard 9mm that uses the traditional mean arms magazine, because the extractor's here, once you pop your magazine out and you try to rack, that round is still in there. There's nothing to grab that cartridge and pull it out. Or
interesting.
That gun is still live if you're just clearing it to download. So something to consider. I don't like that design because of that. I tested it, and frankly, it works sometimes, but doesn't really work another time.
Yeah. Damn, Jesse, we touched on a lot of stuff, and I think like we went over. Yeah, I'm just looking at my notes. Yeah, we went over everything that we were going to talk about, via chat. We talked about compliance, the purpose of the rifle, the federal laws, state laws. We talked about, don't go cheap on your rifle. We have a little time left to talk about some things. I definitely want to let you talk about your project that you're starting. First off, I wanted to give a shout out to yourself, because we haven't had anyone that's this versed in the industry and in the AR realm on the chat or on the AMA before. So I really appreciate you coming on this AMA. But like we talked about, in the chat a couple weeks ago, or sorry, on Facebook. Let's hear about your project.
All right. But
hell yeah.
So all my rifles are running Veltor A5 buffer systems right now. If that's something that you want to get into, you can reach out to me. I'll talk about that. So there's a definite benefit from the A5 over the standard carbine system. I might have I do. I talk about that in my AR lower video, but you can either check that out or just message me directly, and we'll go from there. I didn't get a touch on that.
That's on your 14.5, right? That Veltor system.
This one is on a 14.5, but all of my rifles and pistols right now have Veltors. My the Radiant is on an 11.5 right now. This is running an A5 system. This is going to be a 12.5. This is actually technically a pistol. I just have this here for fun, but this is a short pistol right now. And this will be running a 12.5 for that. This one is a 14 with the A2 carry handle. My ABM lower is going to be running a 12.5, but in LPBO, so I'll be running my Vortex Razor on there. So basically, this is a mini recce, if you will.
Oh, nice. I'm almost done with my recce. I'll send you a picture.
This one actually has a linear comp on there. This is a Call Valley linear comp because it's 9mm. Like whatever.
Yeah.
Linear comp is fine. I just wanted something to be able to use the Centurion Arms handguard on there. We're talking about lunar compliance, all that stuff. Okay, so my project. All right. So if y'all have watched my videos, you notice I don't show my face except for the one that's specifically for the GOC on what documents to bring to buy a gun in the state of California. Now, I will be showing my face eventually, but once my project starts going. So going back to what I talked about in our introduction about us having to find our own way and not having guidance in the world, the purpose of my social media was basically to help guide folks who didn't have practical information, like technical information like that, to help them pick whatever the right gun should be for them, right? So for us, Asian Americans, when we grew up, we don't have that background. We don't have that exposure to the firearms world. And I found, at least from speaking with a lot of other people, not necessarily just Asian Americans, but when we start to learn about firearms, we start to develop this personality, this very particular proper in society type mentality, or we change ourselves to be better human beings. We understand laws, we understand what it means to be legal. We start researching the Constitution, we start learning about our rights, and we start learning about America in general and how the world works, right? And that's not taught in a lot of public schools nowadays. In fact, you probably see the outcome of the crazy people screaming everywhere right now that it's not taught. Because frankly, they don't have a concept of how America works or how California works or just even how humans in general work, that we're free Americans. So the project, what I'm doing is I am trying to normalize firearms ownership in the Asian American communities as far as publicly normalizing it, meaning there's no stigmas attached to it, meaning your parents shouldn't be telling you guns are bad, or be a good model minority, be a good Asian, go to school, be a doctor, all this. But if you want to be a doctor, all good, man. But you break the mold a little bit and start to self-think, be self-sufficient. So what I've been doing, or what the project is, I've been talking with a lot of the other Asian Americans in the gun industry, and a lot of them have agreed to participate in the project, and I will be interviewing each and every one of them as we go through, for them to share their specific stories, their specific Asian American experience, their specific venture into the firearms world, what they've learned, what they are teaching out to others, and big names in the social media world have agreed, like Henry Chen from 9-Hole Reviews or Slave Back Industries has agreed to be it. He's going to be one of my guests. Jeff Kwan from LAS Concealment, he came from California, ghetto Chinese kid that started a gun, got into guns, started a holster making business, moved to Arizona. Now he's super successful. He's going to be my first guest. And there, Roger Wang, venerable Roger Wang from Forward Controls, right? So if any of y'all understand what Forward Controls is, you understand how much the firearms industry respects Roger Wang, right? This guy we're talking about, he started with Battle Arms, and when Battle Arms went corporate from there, he moved on to create his own industry. So Roger is a small-time shop that makes high CNC machine parts and to sell off. It's Forward Controls design, and there's duck symbol on it. He and his wife single-handedly go through every part that comes through to QC, make sure it's in the spec before it goes out to the dealers, and then goes out to everybody else. He leaves it up to dealers to sell for them, so he relies on word of mouth to do that. So understanding that he is an at-home business, so where do his parts come from? Everybody else in the industry that's high tier. So think about this concept here. There's Centurion Arms, Voltor, Psionics, who else makes this stuff? B7 weapon systems. If all these companies make stuff for Roger, then they must respect him quite a bit.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect. Of course, Hodge Defense, for those of you that understand Hodge Defense, Roger and him are good friends. The industry itself, the firearms industry, is very small. We all know each other to some degree. So my intent with this project is to expose how many Asian Americans are in the firearms industry, for them to share their stories and eventually branch out to other career fields, like folks who are in law enforcement, folks who are in the government sector, folks who are doctors, scientists, astronauts. Maybe I'll get Johnny Kim to show up. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah. That's probably a far cry from now, but
we'll get it.
That's the intent. So the purpose of the project is to inspire the rest of the Asian community that to understand, to go out and learn for themselves that guns are completely normal in America. It's okay to own them. It's okay to be practical and proficient with them. And then, be self-sufficient, be responsible for your own safety, and pass that information down to everybody else. And that's the purpose of it. So, I have a scheduled meeting with Jeff Kwan from LAS next week. Yeah, correct, next week. And we're supposed to be scheduling the first Zoom meeting, or the first Zoom interview. And once that goes on, then I will film a trailer for my YouTube channel explaining what's going on, and then the first interview with Jeff Kwan, and then we'll trickle from there. Probably either Henry or Roger will be the next from there. I've been talking to quite a few other people too. I know that, who is it? Range Kuya?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember his actual IG handle, but he's agreed to it. Quite a bit of people. And with Jeff Kwan comes with, like, he's tight with Triarch and Matt Tran and the rest of them.
Oh, cool.
Those folks. So eventually, I'd like to get Matt Tran on. I've been Gabriel from Tamfamgram on Instagram, so he's been introduced to this, and he's interested in coming on board.
What does Matt Tran do again?
Matt Tran?
Yeah, what's his
active police officer, and he either works or he's part of the Triarch world.
I see. Yeah, so it's weird, right? Because I've seen his name, but I don't know if he's like like an owner, co-owner, or just an advocate, or I don't know. But
Yeah,
he's
I'm
somehow
not sure of his specific relationship with Triarch, but I know that he's tied to Triarch.
that's dope. That's cool.
But I guess that's what the interview is going to be for, right? So for him to clarify all that.
Dope.
Let's see here. Yeah, so that's generally the project. I don't think I need to necessarily touch on that much else. I probably won't be talking about my background on YouTube because
Yeah.
I still technically work for the enemy. But
Yeah.
you guys understand that. Let me see. I guess do we have time for questions, or does anybody even have questions?
We do have time for questions.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's hear it, guys. So there you have it. Eddie, Jimmy, all you guys, Mike. I don't know if my girlfriend's still on. She was giving me shit earlier. She's like, come on. If you guys have any questions, please type it into the chat. Have we touched on which side of the Asian sphere he hails from? Yeah, Mian, right?
I did before. Well, when we were having technical difficulties, I did. So I'm Mian. So a lot of you may or may not know what that is. If you're from like ghetto areas like Sacramento, Oakland, or something, you might know. Maybe Visalia, Mid Valley area, or so we came from. Majority of us came over from Laos to Thailand as refugees, then came over to America from there. So a lot of us are either on the West Coast. There's a few of us kind of scattered around different countries and stuff, but we're not even on the census. It's kind of like a Khmu people, or maybe some of the other races. But yeah, basically we're jungle Asians. We eat spicy, sour, salty foods. I'm not a big fan of sweet stuff, but like papaya salad. You ever had that? Yeah, I mean we love that stuff. So
yeah, it's so good. Yeah.
Open to barrel profiles, can of worms. Oh God, Eddie.
Are you Pickle Rick or Bart Simpson?
Where's that question?
I think Mike.
Yes. Both. So Pickle Rick.
Yeah. I grew up with Bart, but I love Pickle Rick.
Yeah, I mean, that whole entire series is great. I mean, the Simpsons are iconic, and that's the reason why they're there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not even talking about plate carriers right now. That's a whole different world altogether. We're talking about plate carriers.
Plate carriers? Where? Someone asked about plate carriers?
No, I'm just the whole Bart Simpson, because that's on my plate carrier.
Oh,
that's on my Haley rig, actually, that attaches to my plate carrier.
So you have the DS. Fuck, what is it called? You have that chest rig, right?
D3 CRM. But this is how my plate carrier normally sits. It sits with the kangaroo pouch with mags in there. What you guys are seeing in the trailer was an add-on, a Swift Clip add-on placard. It's a Haley strategic kit that goes on there. So I do that. So that stays in my backpack, and that's the one I normally wear around. I don't care about my plate carrier, but I'll bring that with me to my car when I roll around. And then this one I leave at home. This is my home rig. So it's just it's slick plate carrier with a Hesco L210s. This is actually this is size small Velocity System Scarab in gray. I probably got the last one in America, actually. It was like brand new. They don't make it anymore.
Yeah.
And I know there are 2 multicam Tropics out there that were custom made for police officers, and that's it. And then I can't get any of those. So I have a different plate carrier on the way. That's multicam Tropic. But yeah, it comes in the built-in kangaroo pouch, and it makes it easy. Velocity System. They make one of the few companies that actually makes good small size plate carriers. From there, but yeah, I mean the shoulders are articulating, so I like it. It's comfortable. I think I have a video on it, so you guys can check that out if you want to know more about it.
Yeah. We're definitely gonna do an AMA on plate carriers, and you're gonna be the guy. Yeah. I need to up my plate carrier.
There are a lot of plate carriers out there that I don't have direct experience with, probably because they're just not obtainable right now.
Yeah.
There are concept slicksters, or actually a lot of them just aren't attainable. But Velocity Systems, instead of just not allowing people to order, they make to order, so they continue their demand as it goes up, essentially. So yeah, I know that anytime I order from them, it shows up. For you folks in the government sector, you get a GovX discount, so you can use that in order. I know that I've allowed some members to use some of my discounts elsewhere. I won't name which vendors because some of y'all work with them probably. Eddie, that there were two specific officers that got that. They were in the jungle area, so like swampy areas. That's what the tropic was for.
Florida?
Yeah, I think it was Florida. Yeah, I'm gonna say, or somewhere in the south.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, Dale just showed up late here.
Mm-hmm.
E3 CRM. So I like Haley strategic products, but they're one of those companies that's just unobtainable right now.
Yeah.
Especially in the color schemes that I need right now. And frankly, I'm just looking for alternative options. Like defense mechanisms is pretty good. It's scalable, so you can build stuff up from there.
Mm-hmm. They make carriers and chest rigs, or just chest rigs?
Who does?
Defense mechanism?
Both. So,
They make both.
Correct. So they have their plate carrier is a slick carrier similar to the Pharaoh, except it's available, and it comes in small. If y'all run small plates, but yeah, their placards they scale up. So you can get a 3-panel shingle, or you can scale it up from there. You can add on a pockets or a flap on front. You just wrap it over, and then you can scale up as you need to. My personal thing, but for that, I'm just going to run the STAC placard because I don't need much on there. I just need mag holes.
Yeah. I like that placard. That placard's nice. I have. I'm waiting to pick up a gray plate carrier. I mean, I don't know which company is going to be the one that's going to take my money, but I do want something that's like a little more low vis. I have a Spiritus, the elastic placard. Yeah, but I've heard mixed things, and I mean I haven't tried it, but I can see why people would say this, that once you take the mag out, it's hard to put another mag in because of the elastic retention.
Because it's elastic, correct?
Yeah. But I have it.
The pros and cons to elastic is the pro is it's low profile and it collapses on you, so you can run a placard. But the downside is too it's a little bit harder to insert. So the Heelys on them, I have the Heely inserts, but I actually think the S-Tacs are superior. They're in Kydex, but you can always adjust that as you need to.
Yeah. You said you haven't tried the Pharaoh 6-stir yet, right?
I have not, no.
Okay.
I have not, because I can't get them, but I have friends that have them, and I've tested them on to run them, but I haven't run them like I ran these ones yet.
I see.
Like my first plate carrier was an S-Tac, the S-Tac Deodon Light, but I had it in 10x12 with go for 4400 plates, so level 4. I mean, those some bitches were heavy, and not only that, but they were oversized for me, right? So it was unnecessary weight in there. So doing that in like 100-degree weather out in the woods freaking sucked, man. I was dying.
Oh shit.
Despite that.
Yeah. Looks like people are just asking silly ass questions. Who needs anything? You're right, Mike. Fucking Mike.
In the video, isn't there? Okay, so concept. Yeah, I agree, Eddie. I mean, the concept of camo for urban environments, for like non-actual camouflage use, it's kind of silly. Yeah. But for us, for consumers, we just kind of do whatever because we like it. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And frankly, who really cares what anybody does with their own money? I mean,
that's
we're not
true.
budgeting here,
Any other questions, folks? Any other questions for Jesse? Does he hate FUDs? I'm just kidding. You don't have to answer that.
Yeah. That and the specific logic that comes along with it.
It's kind of crazy, man. Like, I've only experienced maybe 4 or 5 like hardcore FUDs when I go, shoot at the matches in Oakdale. And it's just like, dude, like, I don't know. And it's hard to dismiss them because everyone has a gun. He has a gun in his belt, right? You don't know, how crazy it is. But man, yeah, the logic and the tone and like the condescending, like tone that they're using, super freaking annoying. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't hate FUDs. I actually feel sorry for them because I think with FUDs they don't see what else is out there, and so their potential is limited to like the technology that can help them make a better shooter or firearms enthusiast, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's no desire to advance beyond their own knowledge base. That's a problem, right? Because we're supposed to be forever students in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
We should never stop trying to advance ourselves, but those folks have kind of given up. And it's even scary because a lot of these FUDs are instructors. And
Yeah.
we can see that in the firearms. We do definitely see that in the firearms community. Like, I tell folks that actually know that are local, I tell them, like, come to my shop to buy things or to get advisement. Like, I will advise you on what to do with firearms, but don't come to my shop for instruction because our instructors that I have no control over are a bunch of FUDs and I don't want to use them. And I get the classes for free. So I'm like, well, why are you going to spend your money when I won't use them?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm pretty honest. I'm brutally honest when it comes to these things. I'll just flat out tell you guys what you bought sucks. It's not gonna work in your gun. But sometimes people still just don't listen.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It's free ass country.
Yeah. Jay says, "Leave my service revolver alone." Hell yeah.
So Jay, I've had the pleasure of knowing Jay for a few years now, actually prior to the GOC, and then but, early on when I was trying to get on with SAC PD, I think I went through Jay to go through one of those events, I think it was. And Jay is pretty much anti-FUD himself, but he sees it. He's seen it in his own peers, if you will. Jay is very data-driven as far as technicality moving forward with his own training. He'll send me random messages about how things suck and stuff like that, and I agree with him.
Yeah.
So he's out there. He just has to be Jay's just a lot more calculated in his responses, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's actually a great resource too. I think he'd be a good AMA for you guys. If you talk to Jay, he's quite accomplished in his life.
Yeah. I've actually I made a post saying, I'm looking for AMAs in this, and I think someone did tag Jay. So Jay, I'm gonna hit you up, man. I would love to talk to you and pick your brain a little bit. Someone said, why bunny operator?
Oh, let's explain that. So my Instagram account started off as a troll account to tell the people that's posting on our actual official FFL IG that they were being dumb, because we would say the dumbest things. Like we would post saying like these guns are available, and then someone would comment and say, where can I get them? Like,
oh
shit
my
like
God.
that. So it started off as a troll account to go there and tell people, it's like, dude, you're hella stupid. It's like right there, right?
Yeah.
So it started off like that, and then eventually people started messaging me asking for advice, and I started giving it, and then eventually evolved into this project about providing a little bit more technical information that's out there on YouTube, right? Because a lot of that's not there. YouTube's been around for a while. These gun tubers have been around for about 10 years, but they do more general product review, but nothing so technical that will help the newer gun shooter that comes around, or the gun owner that comes around. So, that's how it eventually evolved. But that's why the bunny showed up, and it's there, and it just kind of stuck with it because it's kind of too late to change it now because everything is tied to that name now.
Yeah.
But I'm not the only quote unquote operator here like that. Like Eddie is apparently the dumpling operator.
That's tight. That's so dope.
Yeah.
I should hop on this. I should name myself the egg roll operator. The bun me. I don't know. Not sure.
Actually, Jay has agreed to be interviewed also by my project.
Oh,
we can talk about him, like for that part, about his background, and I'd like to get Eddie involved too at some point, and really any of y'all that want to share your stories. It's not about me. It's not my channel. It's just a platform for y'all to tell your story. So the secondary intent of reaching out to the more established YouTubers who are in the firearms community, who are Asian American, is to use their social medias to branch out and share with everybody else, right?
Yeah.
So that's the intent, is because we're so underrepresented in mainstream media that I want to use a social media platform to do that, because that is the wave. It's a double-edged sword, but that's okay because the amount of people that we can reach is very high on using social media. So I think that it's a great platform for us to use. But you know, I will be heavily relying on the local community, like all of you, to share the information. So it's not a monetary thing. It's firearms related. We're never going to get any money, and frankly, you know, I'm fine with my career. This is not something that I need to make money on. It's just simply a service that I want to do because I wish I had this when I was growing up. Really.
Yeah. And you know, and that's why I like fuck with you because, you know, I was very fortunate to meet my partner and then meet her father and her brother, who are very, very pro 2A, and they educated me on the 2A realm and world, you know, in a with a very, very welcoming delivery. Obviously, you know, growing up here, you know, as a young liberal in the Bay Area, I'm not a liberal, but I'm just saying, like, you know, that's what I was when I was like 12. I had no idea what firearms were and like how important they were to me in my life. But I'm totally all about, especially right now, like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm talking about this. Especially right now with all the senseless violence against our Asian community right now, it is freaking bananas. And it, like I get so frustrated and mad, and it's even worse that I can't even like do anything like directly impactful, or else I'm gonna get in trouble or canceled, right? But you know, but with that said, you know, I did, you know, I'm pretty sure you saw it. I did, you know, offered free martial arts lessons to, you know, people and stuff like that. But I feel like I want to do more. And I when you talked about your project, I definitely am on board with that. My story is nothing. I mean, my story is like whatever.
Still your story, man.
Huh?
Still your story. Still your story.
I mean, you know what? Like, I mean, I can. I mean, if you want me to share my story, I will. But I'm more down to help with the back end too. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I'm still making that beat right now. It's it's taking some time, but I'm still doing it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, when we talked about the martial arts background too, when you got into martial arts, that changed you also.
Yeah.
Right? It gave you an avenue to basically. So who was it? I was talking to one of the other members here, commenting, and the broken windows theory came up. Right. It's the concept that you can't leave your situation. And that's the intent of these videos is to also expose that, yes, you can, because we're already there. We're already doing it. Like there's nothing holding you down. You just got to get up and go do it. I mean, Asians are all over the industry. We're all over all industries. It's just a matter of you taking the step forward to do it. So, you know, martial arts thing is, as well as for me, as well as other people, is a heavy part of our backgrounds.
Yeah.
You know, I've 12 years now for me. It's like Taekwondo, Hapkido, and is it technically Tang Soo, I guess, but not formally.
Yeah. Oh, right on. You are the third person in my martial arts career that I met that actually practiced Tang Soo. It's not common. I don't really meet too many people who do that.
Because it's kind of a hybrid between Taekwondo and Hapkido.
Yeah.
That's why. It's like the two had a baby, and then Tang Soo was born.
Oh. Yeah. That's dope, though. Yeah. You just made
the traditional Korean master. He came from Osan Air Force Base. He was teaching Americans over there. His lineage is tied to Jihan Jae, which is one of the original students of the founder of Hapkido before Hapkido started spreading out. If you
nice.
Or everyone started infighting. There's so many different variations. So, I mean, we do Olympic style or sparring Taekwondo, but that's not my preference. I prefer the more practical aspect of it because sparring, it teaches a lot, but it's not really practical in general, you know?
That's awesome. You just made Dale very happy. he probably sat up. Taekwondo. Takes it over. Yeah. He's Korean. Yeah. He's
I know.
Super
half Korean, right?
Half Korean. Yeah.
I see you, Dale. I see you. So that's the other avenue too. The ultimate evolution post martial arts is weapons, and then from weapons you come to modern firearm or modern weapons, which are firearms.
Exactly.
So it's really an extension, and a lot of, at least for my instruction when I teach people, it's very martial arts based because it's physiological or biomechanics based. So it's simply the push-pull method. So a lot of the philosophies from the martial arts world translates to how I do things in the firearms world, and I think it's helped a lot. And I kind of hope that this project does bring light and for a lot of people to let them know that they don't have to be stuck where they are. They can branch out and do what they want to do. That's the intent. Hopefully y'all join me on the journey and let me know how it goes.
Bro, you already know, man. You already know we're all down. Yeah, hell yeah. Let me see. I think we're pretty much good on time. I'm half Korean, half Irish, 100 quarters beats. That's all funny. Yeah, damn. We got a lot of likes in the chat. They're really digging what you're saying. But other than that, man, I think we're good. I'm gonna fix this stupid ass broadcasting. So I'm gonna let you guys know what happened. So Pix Messenger just went through an update, and usually it would just be one direct source of audio going in and out of the window. But apparently you're able to change it. So I think they made it a little more complicated, which is why I couldn't capture that audio through my OBS broadcasting system. So I got to fix that. I'm really disappointed. I really wanted this AMA to run smoother, but whatever, we did it. We made it work. But besides from that, Jesse, if you don't have anything else to say, I think we're good to go, man. We're good to close this. This was great. This was very informational. I think a lot of new people who don't own an AR are like, oh, damn, well, they're probably going to hit you up, but at least I have an idea now, not to get an M&P, a cheap $800 rifle now.
I mean, for us here, this whole video that we did for the GOC is more California based. My videos are not California based. If you pay attention, they're more national as far as that goes. Because they're still basic primers, but California specific. I'll always be happy to provide content to the GOC when it's California specific. But for stuff like that, I tend to leave it off the national pattern, if you will, because it doesn't always relate to everybody. And I'm not here to chase like click counts or views and stuff, so it doesn't really matter so much to me that non-Californians see my California videos, basically, because that's role-oriented, specific for Californians, if you will, or in this case, for the Asian American gun owners of California, or this community that we have. But like I said, that link is available, so y'all can share it. It should be posted somewhere in the group somewhere, and then just find the link and share with other people who are looking to buy guns in California. What else was there? Some of my videos, I wasn't going to share them. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, no, that's all. That's all I got. If anyone else wants to see some stuff,
cool.
I just play more technical on the information. Jay keeps wanting to buy stuff. Jay, you can't do I can't keep covering for you with your wife, man. Jay. So I just released the AR primer. This week is part 2 of it. It's going to the enhanced lowers. So basically the AR precision. The 3 examples I have are precision M41s, the Radian, the ADM. They're in general. I'm talking about the enhanced lowers versus GI. The subsequent week will be AR-15 uppers, a little bit more in depth than that, because this is, or at least what we talked about in this video, is a lot more general, and it's not as in depth and as tactical as the other ones are. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into it as far as tuning your rifle if you're intending to tune it for efficiency. Otherwise, it really doesn't matter because it'll probably run. You'll probably still kill somebody with it if you needed to. Yeah, it's just a matter of when it breaks and how soon it breaks compared to one that's built to higher tolerances. That's really what it boils down to. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But yeah, don't fall for snake oil. When in doubt, ask, and then we'll tell you. But critically think for yourself. Come to your own conclusion. And as long as you're fine with that, that's all that really matters. Because you came to your own conclusion. That's the biggest advice I have for people. And another thing else, this is not something that you should go broke over. Frankly. Don't go chase the high-end stuff. Yeah. Click for the Gucci. It's not that big of a deal. Nowadays you would probably build a good AR-15 for about $1,000 without an optic, and you'll be okay. You'll be okay. You don't need much. And the only reason why I have so many of these things is because I'm always product testing. Yeah. And that's the sole reason, because I am in that position where I can do that. I don't recommend that y'all do that. You can always ask, and I will let you know if something sucks or not. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, that's good. That is great advice. don't go broke. Yeah, my girlfriend's all funny. This was great. Roll with the punches. Get it? Because you both do martial arts. Silly. Like my girls. My lady's funny.
I think we trap, don't we? We don't roll with the punches. We normally we
trap it, and then we catch it, and then stare them down. Thanks, guys. I think we're good.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we'll call it a night. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jesse. I'll hit you up through the messenger.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, you guys can always reach out to me. You just understand, especially if you have things about if you need advice on the government backgrounds. Like I've gone through both federal, state processes, local processes, and all that stuff. And I can always link you up with anybody else that I know is active duty. They can help you all out too. I know a lot of some of the members that have found out what I do for a living. They started talking about they were interested and wanted to branch out to that. You know, first things first is take the step and apply, and then we can work on the other stuff after the fact. So you got to get through the gatekeeper first. You know. For sure. Thanks, man. All right, I think that's it. Jay, I'll hit you up. We'll talk more. Jesse, thank you so much. I'll hit you on the messenger. Absolutely.
All right, man.
Good night, guys.
Good night, everybody.